And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet where you can hear two people who are doctors.
But not doctors. I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And this week, we want to take out our flag with our two faces on it and our motto, which is, we are always right.
Yeah, that is true.
You are listening to the most powerful podcast in the world.
That is more 100% powerful, the case, Chris.
Yeah,
yes.
more powerful than Joe Rogan, more powerful than We Might Be Drunk, more powerful than Philip DeFranco. Here's why. Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air.
He's back. He's back, everybody.
This is a huge moment for the Doctors Not Doctors podcast. That's Doctors
Indeed.
Not Doctors podcast 1, FCC and Trump government 0.
Exactly. So if you have been paying close attention, you will have noticed that last week during our session, we did mention the fact that Jimmy Kimmel had been forced off the air, that ABC and Disney, cowards that they were, had decided to basically take him off the air indefinitely as a result of pressure from Nextel and also from Sinclair, two of the companies that owned a bunch of the local ABC stations.
And Tegna, right?
Tegna, yes. Tegna is the other one. Nextel was attempting to form a takeover of Tegna. For that, they needed FCC backing. And of course, the FCC chairman had just effectively said, we will come after you and we will revoke your broadcasting licenses unless you do something about this Kimmel man. So, we started a little bit of a crusade there, Chris.
We did.
It's fair to say.
I think we were the first ones to raise the issue in the public,
absolutely.
in the public zeitgeist, and
nobody else was talking about this.
No
issue,
one was talking
until
about
we brought it up. Yeah.
I hadn't heard about it at all. I don't even think Jimmy Kimmel Show was known outside of the United States, and only in certain parts of the United States.
Exactly.
So I mean, obviously, we're going to keep the fight going in the crusade to
absolutely
for free speech.
Yep.
Obviously, we're taking the piss. I mean, it in case you couldn't tell,
we're dropping the bit already. Damn.
I think we could drop the bit. I mean,
okay, all right.
But it's a rare glimmer of some kind of resistance. When now obviously the right wingers are all backpedaling and said, "See, we told you he wasn't canceled. See, Trump didn't have him fired because he's back on the air." I'm like,
which would have worked really great for them until Donald Trump put out a bunch of tweets saying, "Why did they put Kimmel back? I told them to take him off, and I will go after them even harder now."
He literally said, last time they gave me $16 million, they're going to give me even more. And I'm like, the fact that he is saying, again, you think you brought it up a couple podcasts ago that he was going after people in this personal capacity.
That is basically,
we're talking about that after the podcast. I can't. Yeah.
I mean, if we didn't bring it up during the podcast, we damn well should have, Chris, because this is the thing. There's a reason he talks like a mob boss. And that's because that's who he wants to be. John Gotti is his spirit animal, Chris. So
tremendous.
Well, that's the thing. And it makes so much more sense of what he does when you realize he's just trying to be a mob boss, right? So when he makes a quote unquote deal with ABC to drop his bullshit lawsuit that he was literally never going to win in exchange for $16 million to the Trump Library, which it must be noted does not exist, Chris.
Yeah, that's true. There is no Trump library. So where does that money go?
Where is that money going is an interesting question. Well, it makes sense if it was going to him, right? And when he kept telling Europe, and NATO that he was, everyone needed to pay more money to the United States because we're not, we're providing protection and you're not paying enough. And everyone was like, well, what he means by that is that Europe really needs to increase its military spending, that the U.S. has been too predominant in providing military force for NATO. And that's why it's really important. And then they were absolutely baffled why, when Europe started increasing its military spending, Donald Trump did not in any way become more predisposed towards NATO. And the way to make sense of that is that, no, he really thought that people needed to pay him money.
I know. It's a wild situation, a wild story that, we're sitting here happy that a show that was canceled due to threats from the FCC on the content of what somebody said on a show, which again wasn't nearly as bad as what was
it wasn't
seen to be by the right wing.
It wasn't bad. It was no line had been crossed.
No line had been crossed. No.
nothing about Charlie Kirk, a person about whom I have said terrible things just in the last week and in public and on the internet. So, my God, man, cancel me.
No. If they cancel you, then I have to do this by myself, and then I can't do a full hour. Oh, I might be able to do a full hour, but it will be about 35% total ramble.
Okay, you know I'm just dragging you down, man. I'm a weight around your legs. You should let them have me, Chris. I will sacrifice myself for the greater good.
Well, we are on a political crusade, so obviously someone's got to.
Yeah, got to throw some babies from the sled, Chris. So
good Lord. So we're starting off firing off on all cylinders here, but I do want to talk about, before we move on to what we were planning on, something that we forgot to mention before we started talking, and just so everybody knows behind the curtain here, before we start, we think about what we're going to talk about so that we're not just going around in circles and just kind of umming and ahhing our way through everything. Exactly. But this is something that we didn't bring up that I think we do need to talk about briefly. Yeah. Trump's total 180 on Ukraine.
Okay, now this is true. Yeah. This is true. And I think, I have a theory on this. I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Okay, all right. Okay. Oh, you want to hear my thoughts? Okay.
Yeah.
This all came as Trump was at the UN, which we can just talk about it now too. So Trump was at the UN. It was a fucking disaster. I mean, on all diplomatic fronts. Jesus. I mean, the first off, the most so there are two ways that you can see this as a disaster. On the one side, you had the MAGA folk who thought that the following was a disaster. The escalator didn't work and the teleprompter didn't work. Yeah. And apparently there may have been some issue with the translators. All of that on their side was like, and apparently Fox News has been, doing their utter best to get in front of the president on all hands and knees, and he almost fell over on the escalator. And
he could have died, Chris. And the first escalators are so sharp.
That's literally what they said. The escalators are sharp, and the first lady, she bravely
said if he had fallen forward, his head could have been sliced open by the fucking escalator stairs. And it's I direct everyone to the very famous joke by Mitch Hedberg, which is the thing about escalators is that when they can't break, because when they break, they're stairs.
Yeah, a stopped escalator is also known as stairs. And also, then they said the first lady bravely walked up the stairs. And because if you ever seen the picture or the video of him stopping, it's like they get onto the escalator and then it comes to a stop and they're all looking around like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do now? just like anybody else would if you're in an escalator and it's just like, it just stopped. You're just like, because I have been on escalators that have stopped.
Right.
Unlike...
It's not fun. I don't relish the idea of being on an escalator that stops because then I got to fucking walk up the stairs, man.
No, I was lucky I had to walk down. And who is that dude from last week who wants to kill all the homeless people?
Oh my God, Brian Kilmeade.
Kilmeade is like, I've never been on an escalator that's ever stopped. I'm like, come to fucking London, dude. If they're not broken down, I've been on a couple escalators that you're on them and you hear the and it just stops, but it stops slowly. Now, not like super slow. It is a bit abrupt, but it's not to the point where, because obviously if the system
they're not going that fast to start with this thing.
And if they were to abruptly stop, you just fall straight down and then you would actually get hurt. So they can't have that. So that was like the disaster from the right wing.
I gotta say, man, Trump versus the escalator is not one of the things I would have had on my bingo card for top political scandals of the week. And to be fair, it's not at all a political scandal at all, because it's an escalator that broke down, my dude. And, then you had to walk up the stairs like a chump. So
and to his credit, he walked up those stairs.
He did. He
walked up those stairs. This is a dude who we thought was dead 6 weeks ago.
I gotta say, he appears in much better physical health. Mentally, not so much, but physically seems to be doing well, at least in terms of his ability to walk up a flight of stairs.
Which is a big deal for a man of his age and weight.
True. That's true. He's a fat old man, Chris. And as a fat young man, I got to say,
get your steps in. You're working out. You're working out. Get your steps in. But the issue for the rest of the world, though, was when he gave his speech, the prompter gave out. And so he had to read from his notes. Now, he didn't do it off the top of his head. There's pictures of his speech right in front of him. That's why you have the book when you walk up in case the electricity goes out.
Wait, so just to clarify, that was a written speech?
Well, it's as much as Trump has a written speech, right? How far did they go off piste? I don't know, but
right. But like, if any of it was like written down beforehand, then what the hell, man?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But he was, from what I understand, speaking for about an hour. He decided to have a go at climate change. Obviously, he hates the concept of open borders. I mean, this is obviously
or even he hates the concept of people being allowed to cross borders at all.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
He was literally saying that, everyone should just stay in their own countries and there should be no immigrants at all. And it's just like, just dude, who thinks like that?
Oh, I can tell you a bunch of people, and they all work in the Trump White House.
That is absolutely terrifying. Goddamn, just go on a fucking city break one time, guys.
It'd be great if he left the country. That'd be awesome.
I mean, that would be really nice. Yeah.
I mean, and didn't come back. Yeah. So the speech that he gave, he decided to specifically attack the mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, and said that London was undergoing a transition or currently under Sharia law.
Yeah, because if you're going to lie about one of the greatest cities in the world, why not go big?
Yeah, why not make the lie enormous?
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's what he did.
It's absolutely incredible to me. And the thing is, like, here's what kills me, is that in prior years, in other decades, in other times, if a politician had said something like that was so completely and totally wrong, then you would think everyone would be like, oh, well, that man has lost his mind. He is suffering a schizophrenic break. He is incredibly ignorant, or he is going insane. And either way, that's a huge problem. Yeah. Whereas we've gotten so inured to it, the entire media ecosystem has become so utterly corrupted by Trump that it's not even mentioned. Like, hey, does the president actually believe this? Because if he does, his brain is jelly.
Yeah, but for me, like, I think it's pretty obvious by now that so much of the media apparatus in America and in the UK are 100% bought and paid for by billionaires who support Trump. Right?
I mean, in the sense that billionaires literally own all of the media organizations that have any reach whatsoever. I mean, yeah. And insofar as all the billionaires have decided that Donald Trump is, going to make them rich.
Good for them.
Yeah.
And even then, also think about it like this, as we will be reminded many, many times in, the next several months and years that, conservatives have no voice and there's nowhere for them to be heard. How many new stations emerged between 2016 and 2020 that were far right conservative stations? I
mean, quite a large number, actually. So, like, one news network, I feel like
OAN, Newsmax, potentially News Nation, although I think that was headline news before. But they host Andrew Cuomo. In the UK, there was Talk TV and GB News. So we're talking about at least three news stations in America that were all cable, and two in the UK. Sorry, three in the US, two in the UK. All started by billionaires. I think all tons of money put into them, and then you have the blogosphere, that these people are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars or ridiculous amounts of money to do what we're doing, only with much less information and with a specific political purpose. And yet it's so hard to be a conservative. It's so hard to say anything because I'll just get canceled. Well,
right, exactly. And then I'll have to have a podcast where people give me money to spout off racist nonsense
to continue
all
the
racist time.
Bullshit. Yeah. What Trump had said during his speech and have a specific go at Sadiq Khan. And to be clear, there are Sharia courts, there are religious courts in the United Kingdom. But they are subordinate to UK law.
Like, I mean, okay, so here's the thing, right? Like, you can, instead of going to court, if you and the other party agree, go to adjudication, basically arbitration. Now arbitration is basically a private court of law, and I take that back. It's a private court. it isn't law, because the way it works, right, is that you can go before, a judge, a lawyer, somebody who is well versed in law. They will act as a judge, an arbiter in the case. And in this mechanism known as alternative dispute resolution, the two sides will present their claims. The arbiter will make a decision between them, a determination, and say, okay, well, here's what I think happened with the contract, and here's who owes who what money.
Yeah.
Things of that nature, right? No one has ever suggested that arbitration is anything other than legal, because, it is.
Yeah.
Parties are able to do this. They can farm this out to judges. And if you're going to have arbitration, if you're going to have alternative dispute resolution, there's nothing that says that you can't have somebody who, do that, who is, a religious figure, who is a health nut. You could basically have your Uncle Benny.
Yeah, anyone could be an arbiter.
Well, yeah, like there are some like regulations. If you're going to be working as an arbiter in any kind of cases with money, obviously, no one's going to ask you to do that unless you got some credentials.
Yeah, unless you know what the hell you're talking about.
It's one of those things. So there are people who would like religious figures to be involved, ruling on the basis of religious law.
Yeah.
And so you might have someone ruling on the basis of halacha. If you're Jewish and you're of that particular branch of Judaism, where you're like, okay, well, that's the law that we want to determine this. You can have a Sharia court if you're Muslim and you're like, well, I would actually like this determined according to that particular code of law. You could have a Catholic court of law. You could totally have a Catholic priest basically act as an arbiter in your particular case. But the thing about all of these situations, Chris, is that nobody can force you into it.
No, of course not.
Like any party at any point can be like, unless they have contracted away their right to sue. And that actually is one of the things that we should be very careful about when it comes to arbitration.
Yeah.
Unless you've contracted away your right to sue, you have the right to sue. You can get the case before a judge.
Right. Which means it's subordinate to local
100%.
law. And again, if there's no enforcement mechanism, I can agree to do it and then just not turn up.
Well, 100%. And maybe the arbiter rules against you, but unless that arbitration is like legally binding because the contract says it is, then you're not bound by it. So if we're talking about a determination by a Sharia court, unless we're talking about a business dispute where there's a written contract and then things are being judged and the contract says that the determinations of the religious arbiter are going to be legally binding. But there's literally no danger here, right?
Yeah. So, but it sounds good to people who are voting, whether MAGA in the United States or Reform in the United Kingdom. It's not done by accident. It was put in his head or put in his speech by the people around him to maintain a high level of distrust and division between communities. Yeah. And so those are the two versions of the disaster. And getting us back to the very beginning of why we started talking about this, after that all happened, Trump puts out a tweet saying, to the effect, Ukraine can win this war. They should get everything back that they lost and more.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is
interesting.
Which is wild. Now, obviously, it's all taken with a grain of salt. But obviously, and we're going to talk about our different theories on this before we move on to the next thing. My quick theory is that I think that Trump has realized that, one, the waitress isn't going to go out with you.
I bet you think strippers like you too. Yeah.
And so maybe his good friend Vlad isn't his as good of a friend as he thought, because Vlad keeps on attacking, even though he says I'm wanting peace, but he keeps on attacking Ukraine. And Ukraine keeps on defending itself. And I'm sure Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, who had a meeting with Trump at the UN, I believe, I'm sure he basically said, look what the hell's going on. And you got to stop thinking that this is going to get any better without any of your intervention. And second of all, and I think this is more important than peace in Ukraine or saving lives, Trump, for some reason, wants a Nobel Prize.
Yeah,
because like a Nobel Peace Prize.
Obama got one.
That's right. I keep on forgetting how much he hates Obama because a black man was elected president.
And then made fun of him and everyone laughed. at the White House press awards or whatever the fuck.
In hindsight, I wish he hadn't have done that. Because here we are living in this world where
but on the other hand, if the president of the United States can't mock a billionaire at literally an event given over to mocking presidents and billionaires, then I feel like, are we even in a free country at that point, Chris?
Well, I mean, we're finding out right now, aren't we?
I guess we rather are actually.
What's your theory of this? What is your theory right now?
Okay, so I think there's two things that may be going on here, right? On the one hand, Ukraine has had some recent battlefield success, which is very interesting. Yeah. So if you've been following the war in Ukraine for the last 2 months, all of the talk has been about this apparent Russian success in Pokrovsk. Now, this is a city in, I believe, Donetsk province. This is the southeast of the country. It is a very important supply point, basically. It's like, this is where railroads go. This is where you can get supplies to. If Ukraine loses it, there's really no major city nearby that they can fall back to. It might actually push them out of a huge swath of territory because Ukraine is incredibly flat. Defensible territory is hard to come by. So basically, it looked for a bit like Russia was about on the verge of making a really big breakthrough, having a big success. However, then the Azov battalion got sent down to Pokrovsk. The Azov battalion, they're pretty good at their jobs, and they really don't like the Russian armed forces. So what they ended up doing was surrounding, encircling, and destroying a relatively large number of Russian troops, including apparently, I think the current reports are just this week, 3,000 Russians were killed, wounded, and captured, or captured. So this is big. These are all frontline troops. And Russia has a large manpower pool, but a lot of those people really don't want to serve in the military and are rich enough to not have to. So you have to pull from ethnic minorities who are, there's not that many of them.
And North Koreans.
So there's a reason why Russia has had to go to North Koreans for people. This is not what you do if you have inexhaustible supplies of manpower. This is what you do if you can't tap your inexhaustible supplies of manpower because you'd get shot and overthrown as president. So this is a loss. It's not like a strategic loss that's going to change everything, but it's an indication that the Russian military, their big strategic push, September, this is it, boys. We've been attacking Pokrovsk for over a year, and now we're finally going to take it. It's gone to shit for them. So I think on the one hand, Donald Trump may be, if he's paying attention to his briefings, but if he is, he may have thought to himself, wow, okay, so the Russians aren't as scary as maybe they are a paper tiger. Maybe they aren't as, dominant as I have thought they are. And if they're weak, I don't want to be associated with them because I despise weakness. So maybe that's it. But I think the other element of it is this. Donald Trump will agree with anyone who talks to him and will say whatever anyone says to him, as long as they were the last person to talk to him. Every time he meets with, European leaders, he comes out, saying nice things. Every time he meets with his advisors, he comes out saying terrible things about NATO, about Europe, and about Ukraine. So when Donald Trump says things like, it's time for Ukraine to go big and I think they can win this thing, I think that lasts exactly as long as it takes for Stephen Miller to start talking to him again.
We'll have to see.
I'm a little bit pessimistic. I really hope that he's come around to the idea that actually Vladimir Putin is just never going to put out, quite frankly. His mouth says yes, but his missiles say no. So, He's never going to say yes to the date. He's not your friend. That's the thing. He's always going to have to wash his hair, and he doesn't have much hair, dude.
He's always busy on the nights, but he's always ready. The phone's always ringing at 2:00 in the morning, but he never wants you to come over.
That's the thing. Take the hint, man. Take the hint.
Figure it out. He's just not that into you.
Exactly.
So, So
we'll keep an eye on it, I guess.
The world will keep an eye on it. Let's move on to stuff that's happening over here. So there was a poll that came out today. So we're recording this on the 26th of September.
Yep.
And this morning, probably last night, a poll came out from YouGov, also with Sky News, that something that we've talked about before. Now, for months, the Reform Party is a private company owned by Nigel Farage and a few others, which also does political work, is ahead in the polls and has been ahead of the polls for quite some time. But this company called YouGov, which you may have heard of, has done a extensive polling of 13,000 people. And the reason why that matters is because most polling is somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people, maybe 1,300 people. This is a 13,000 person poll. It's very difficult to do this. You have to get lots of money and resources behind it, but it's becoming more frequent in the UK because it gives you a pretty good picture of how things are looking politically. Now, obviously, there's millions of people in the UK, so this is just a snapshot of today. But on their polling, what you've seen here is that that they asked people who they want to be in charge. Obviously, there's various parties. Reform got 27% of the vote, 27%. Labour got 21. The Lib Dems got 15. The Conservatives got 17. The SNP, who I work for in Westminster, got 3%. The Greens got 11%. Plaid Cymru gets 1%. And others got 5%. As you notice, nobody there even cracks 30%. But because of the way the UK works and the disaster of its electoral system, people are projecting that, our YouGov is projecting that the Reform Party could get anywhere between 271 seats in the House of Commons and 342. The median, I think if I'm right there, median or mean, the median, I believe, is 311 seats. So you need 326 seats to be the government. So at the low end, they're not the government, but they're close. At the high end, they have more than they need to become the government with one party, and that's theoretically on 27% of the vote.
And that is a hell of a thought. Now, if you're an American and you're looking at this and you think, well, what kind of crazy system do they have in Britain? The answer is basically the same system we have in America.
Just more parties.
Well, that's the thing. In both of our countries, we have, first past the post, whoever gets a plurality of votes, i.e. the greatest share, wins that particular House seat, wins that particular Senate seat, wins that particular state's electoral votes in the case of the president.
Right.
What's interesting is that in political science, there's a really big theory that basically says you should expect to see one more party than there are seats available in any given district. And so, so you should expect to see two main parties if you've got a single member of parliament up for election in a district, a single member of Congress up for election in one particular district. And this is generally true. You do see two major parties. It's just that no one ever said they had to be the same two parties in each district.
Yeah.
In the case of the United States, because we've got presidential elections where if you're either running as a Democrat or running as a Republican, you have a chance of winning. And if you're not running as either of those, you have no chance of winning.
Yeah, it's a lot harder.
Win. Exactly. You exist to steal votes from somebody else and make sure that the side that you hate the most gets elected. It's one of the reasons why we very rarely see strong third-party challenges in the United States. But then that carries over into legislative districts as well. Because basically, if you're going to be running in one of these districts, well, the whole point of getting into Congress is to pass laws. The whole point of doing that is to be part of a majority party, if possible.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to vote for like the Socialist Workers Party, even if you consider yourself a socialist worker, if you want to have a chance of electing somebody to actually sit in Congress. So this, I think, explains why we have just two parties almost in every single state in the United States.
Yeah.
But in Britain, the prime minister isn't directly elected. And so every single district is basically two major parties really battle it out with a bunch of minor parties that exist at the edges. It's just a different selection of two parties in each district. Conservative versus Labor, Labor versus Reform, Greens versus Lib Dem, theoretically. And I think we're sort of seeing a dissolution of the idea that all these districts should be having the same fight between left and right. Exactly.
Yeah, no, and we are seeing with this a huge, my issue is that we are seeing a huge problem in the fact that 27% of the vote can give you nearly 100% of the power, because as we talked about before, in the United Kingdom, there's no constitution. So once you get in charge of the House of Commons and you get control of the standing orders, which the standing orders give the executive so much power, there's literally nothing you can't do. Because you can it takes a relatively smart person just to say, oh, well, we'll just do all this new stuff that's never been done before, and because there's no constitution, well, I guess it's just going to be done. I was doing some thought experiments, and one of them is, okay, how quickly could you get rid of elections in the UK?
That's a good question.
Now, so basically, in the UK. Or let me just do it from America or any country with a constitution, because elections are part of the constitutions and constitutions are really hard to change. If somebody said, I'm going to get into office and then eliminate elections, right, which you could classify under constitutional reform, right, then if you try to do it in another country, you have to get an amendment, and the amendments to the Constitution are pretty hard. And you have to convince people that, we don't need elections anymore. You have to have that conversation out in public. It's very difficult to do that in the United Kingdom. All you really need to do is to get a majority in the House of Commons to pass a bill which says we're going to get rid of elections and replace them with nothing. And because it's in our manifesto, the House of Lords can't stop us from doing it. And then remove all and then find the different pieces of legislation that may stop us from doing it, potentially the Human Rights Act.
Right.
And then eliminate those as well, all in one giant bill.
Now, that's true. But you said something really important there that I think is worth taking into consideration. In order to be able to blow past any other sort of, constitutional defense, right?
Yeah.
You would have to have that in your manifesto. You have to say in your manifesto, elect us and we will end elections. Or
you could just say constitutional reform. And we will investigate elections. We'll investigate electoral security. There's 1,000 different ways to say it.
I mean, there is, but basically the House of Lords would still have to effectively decide for itself, was this actually in the manifesto, yes or no? And if the House of Lords decides, well, no, you said constitutional reform, you didn't say end elections, they might be in a position to certainly drag things out. Now, they could delay for a year, right?
Something like that. 1 or 2 years, yeah. Exactly.
So now that would potentially give literally the entire other 3/4 of the country time to mobilize and make exceptionally clear the country will not be governable if you do that, right? But go ahead. Well, this is the thing, basically, is that the ultimate guarantor of freedom is not a piece of paper, and it's not sort of like the rules of the Congress or of the Parliament. The ultimate guarantor of liberty is the people. And to a certain degree, that's how it should be, I think, in a democracy. After all, the people are the ones who are sovereign. And even in the United Kingdom, which is technically a constitutional monarchy, it's understood that the crown in Parliament is sovereign. But what makes that legitimate is that it is selected by the people.
I'm not entirely convinced that you can convince people that it's in their best interest not to have elections for a while. A temporary measure. It's just a temporary measure. You don't say forever. You just say it's a temporary measure because of the small boats. I mean, we need to make sure that we don't have elections while we deal with the national crisis of small boats.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, so the last time you had that happen, right? The last time you had a government say, "And we're just not going to hold elections for a little while," that was World War I.
Yeah.
Right. And the party that was in power that did that was the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
And Chris, what happened to the Liberal Party in the aftermath of World War I?
Well, they weren't the government anymore. That was a Rainbow Coalition as well. However,
when was the last time after that they were in power?
2010 as the Liberal Democrats.
Exactly. Right. So it took 100 years almost for them to be able to get anywhere near sniffing power, and only then as the minority coalition partner of the Conservatives. So, I mean,
I don't.
If you ever stop having elections, you can never have elections again.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you need elections and you got it right the first time?
But that's the thing. So that's the thing, though, right? I don't think you would be able to convince a lot of people that, like, just give me all your power. Just hand it over. Give me your power, Chris. I'll use it. I'll use it for you. Don't you worry your sweet little head about it.
You're going to sort out that big issue, which only you can sort out because you're the only one who pointed it out.
Well, that's it. Just sign these guardianship papers, Chris, and then I will have control of your assets, and I'll do right by you, just like Brittany.
Brittany. Just like Brittany. But this is why it's a thought experiment, because there's lots of different moving parts. But the point is that when you become the government of the United Kingdom, there's very little that can be done to stop you doing what you want to do. Now, there are court cases and there are precedents and there are, the entire civil service could resign and you can be slowed down.
Yes. But it would also, I think, be very hard to subordinate the courts in this country. So, I mean, like if you did have a situation where Parliament purports to pass a bill to end elections, right?
Yeah.
And someone were to challenge that in court, you couldn't challenge it on the basis of, well, they're not allowed to pass that law.
Exactly, right? Because of parliamentary sovereignty.
Exactly. But what you could argue is, well, here's what the law they passed actually says, and here's what we think that means. And I think the courts would be very unlikely to want to, for reasons basically of how statutory interpretation works in the courts, right? You don't start from the assumption that Parliament intends to take away people's liberties and rights. You don't start from the assumption that Parliament is attempting to, destroy the rule of law. You start from the presumption that, well, no, of course, Parliament wants to maintain the rule of law. That's a necessity. So unless they draft it really well, like watertight, making it explicitly clear to everybody, oh no, this is fascism. This is the Enabling Act, and now Nigel Farage is our,
forever king.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But as I've said before, to get around that, you just change who the judges are, which means you have to figure out a way to pass a law to control the judiciary. Which again,
that's good point.
In the United States, it's a lot harder to do that because it is a separate branch of government. But here, parliamentary sovereignty says as soon as an act is passed, you cannot dig into why it was passed.
Absolutely.
And the intentions behind it. You can only say this is now the law. This is now the law. And that's the Achilles heel of the country, is that as soon as a law is passed, even if during debate they said, this is fascism. Can't talk about it because it was mentioned in debate. It was mentioned in debate, not worth it. And now the bill is passed.
Well, that's the thing. But that cuts both ways. So if the point of the bill is to establish fascism, but it's badly written, then the courts can't say, oh, well, this is fascism and we can't have that. What the courts can say is, well, no, it's badly written, so it's ambiguous. So here's what we think it means. Or rather, this thing doesn't mean anything, so therefore it's otiose. The thing is, the courts have a lot of ability to make life hell for people who are bad at writing things. This is one of the reasons why lawyers spend so much time learning how to draft contracts, learn how to draft legislation, because it's an art. You got to know how to talk to the judge.
And that's why you have the steady, slow hand of the judiciary versus the fast hand of politics.
Indeed,
because it's a lot faster to trigger somebody to say, "Oh, the judges are the enemies of the people," which is a thing that has been said on the headlines, front pages of the newspapers in this country.
I mean, fascists do like to say such things in incipient fascist regimes. Also, Boris Johnson said those things, but that's really neither here nor there, I guess.
It's neither here nor there. So we've talked about this long enough. We have seen that this poll's come out. And of course, this poll is just one. It's just one poll, and we are theoretically not close to an election. I don't think we're 4 years away from an election, but we're not close to an election.
But if I am a member of parliament in the Labour Party and I am looking at this poll and I'm looking at Keir Starmer, I am asking myself, what are you going to do about this? Like, things are not going well and we need a plan, right? So,
I'll tell you what you're not supposed to do.
What's that?
Introduce ID cards.
Oh, yes, that's the plan. That's the plan. Chris, why is he doing this?
I assume to appeal to the people who are going to vote reform, because
is it going to appeal to the people who vote reform?
Because the reason that he wants to do it is because it's going to make it easier for businesses and landlords to not rent to people who aren't from here, and to not get people jobs who aren't from here, right? So when you rent a place, a law was passed a couple of years ago that when you rent a place in the UK, you have to give them proof that you have the right to live here. So either indefinite leave to remain, which Nigel Farage wants to get rid of. We'll have to talk about that at a different time. That's that's what we were supposed to talk about. Or you need to show them your passport so that you're supposed to be here. Same goes for a job. And now they say, instead of doing that, just use your ID, which will be on your phone.
Oh, good, because electronic IDs, they never go on the fritz. Everyone knows that the internet is always totally available at every moment of the day.
And e-visas have been working out so well so far. So, So again, the appeal to the right never works because, well, there's already a party of the right. Why would I go to an ostensibly left-wing party?
Right.
To be more like my right-wing party.
And the thing is, if you do have voters who normally vote Labor, but on the issue of immigration, they're attracted to reform, right?
Yeah.
If you are the Labor Party and you decide, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to move right on immigration, and that way our voters will stay with us. What you're really doing is saying immigration is the most important issue.
Yeah.
So if you're going to vote on immigration, and all of a sudden your Labor voters who normally vote Labor but are closer to reform and immigration, the message they hear is vote reform.
Exactly.
Because if that is the only issue that matters, and reform is closer to what you want, well, then you would vote for reform, right? Like if
they're
you
already there.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you can't beat fascism with diet fascism, because people are going to choose the real thing every time.
Oh, it just tastes better.
Well, that's the thing. If you want your full fat fascism, man, skim fascism, it's just not going to it's not going to do the trick, is it?
No. It's disgusting.
Well, I mean, if you're Labor and you want to win those voters back, you need to offer them something reform can't compete with. You need to offer them something reform cannot do. You need to offer them, like, I don't know, jobs, a recovering economy, investments, freedom. All sorts of things that reform is constitutionally incapable of because they're a bunch of lunatics run by a nasty little fascist man. So
exactly, like, instead of focusing on how to hurt people, you should probably be focusing more on how you can help people, and not by offering them ID cards. That's insane. Yeah, that's absolutely nuts.
It's amazing to me, because what it's doing, right, is, aside from the political cack-handedness of it, although that is the byword of the Starmer government, isn't it? Political cack-handedness.
Yeah.
Is that you're going to put forward a bill that is something that reform wants, so they win. But also it's something that's going to be incredibly annoying, and it's going to piss off 90% of the country, because nobody wants to carry your goddamn ID cards unless, like, you really like having cards in your wallet. And some people do. I'm not here to yuck your yum.
But it's not going to be in your wallet. It's going to be in your phone, and everyone's going to have it. I doubt this is going to. I mean, it may go somewhere. Labor tried this in 2010, just before the last election, before the 2010 election. And again, it was an immigration election, because immigration wasn't an issue between 1997 and 2001. It wasn't an issue in the way that it was now, but it was basically pushed by the papers in that time. And then by 2001, it was the issue.
Yeah.
And it hasn't not been the issue since. Because it is so easy to motivate people to get on the streets and to vote, to keep them out. At the same time, you're happy to have them in your house to clean. You're happy to have them in the fields. You're happy to have them sometimes in your NHS, because you don't want to spend all that time becoming a doctor. That's nerd stuff. So,
I mean, it is nice to be able to see a trained medical professional when you need to see a trained medical professional, and not have someone say, well, sorry, but we just couldn't afford to get enough trained medical professionals because we can't bring in any foreigners,
and so I guess we're just going to have to go to a paid system.
Yeah.
Like Farage wants to do. So
my God. Yeah.
So normally we'd take a break, but we're going so long here that we might as well just speed through right to the end. and it's quite an interesting last couple of topics here. Let's start with Pete Hesgeth and his mysterious meeting of what all the generals,
all the generals, Chris, all the generals, all the admirals, everyone at like 1 star and above. This is not a thing.
Summoned to meet a Fox News host, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. Like, this is completely abnormal. This is crazy pants. This is a bad idea, even if they were meeting for the soundest and nicest of reasons, right? Even if this were, he's calling them together because there's a massive threat that the country faces, and we have to be prepared because an attack is imminent. You still would never do this, because one bomb in the wrong place and you lose all of your generals. Like, holy shit. Why would you ever have all of the generals and admirals in one physical location? That is insane.
And this is also nuts because Hesgeth has also banned freedom of speech in Pentagon Pentagon, because he said any story that comes out of the Pentagon needs to be cleared through the Pentagon, which again, we're not talking about confidential stories. We're not talking about stories about, military intelligence. We're talking about any story. If it's about napkins on a battleship, on an aircraft carrier, Hesgeth needs to know about it and approve it. So there needs to be, like, again, this should be shooting flares and huge sirens going on when the defense secretary says
the American people cannot know what happens here.
The American people cannot know what happens here unless I say it's okay.
Yeah.
Which is, again,
what you hiding there, big boy.
Which at the same time, he's now calling in all of the top leaders of the military for the reasons we don't know. And unless somebody wants to breach this rule of the Pentagon, we can't know until Hesgeth tells us what he wants us to know.
I mean, I have to suspect that attempt to like totally control the information space and the Pentagon is going to go exceptionally poorly. Because the thing is, right, people who work in the Pentagon, they know reporters. There are reporters who report from the Pentagon. There are sources who have been used before. Like, you will absolutely have people, quote unquote, leaking. And with, Pete Hegseth with his, little, oh, no one can know anything unless I say so. Like, no one's going to believe him. No. Like, the stories are going to come out, and he's going to have absolutely destroyed his ability to manage the press or to get his side of the story out there. It's, I think, ultimately self-defeating, But
it's also, it's self-defeating because...
Well, it's self-defeating because what it's going to do is shatter any possibility of having a relationship with the press that is something other than you print what I say because I am your Lord and Savior, right?
But that is what this administration is about. Okay, the Oval Office only filled with friendlies. Before Trump had gone off to the UK last week, an Australian had asked him, "Is it okay that you're having all these business connections?" The ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, lost their ability to talk to the president because of that. They lost their pool pass, a press pass for that. And now you have Hesgeth doing this. You have this deep, very public fight between the administration and the press, where anything that you say needs to be positive of us, and all the way up to the president, who has said that, all these people are not nice to me and therefore they should lose their licenses.
I know. It's illegal. You have the president literally threatening to use the power of the state to punish free speech. Like, you cannot get more authoritarian. You cannot get more anti-American. This is literally a situation where the president has just sort of openly announced he will not be governing according to the Constitution. As far as he is concerned, the Constitution just does not exist. And honestly, I think the American people are starting to wake up to that fact. We skated over this with Jimmy Kimmel, right?
Yeah.
But there's a reason why Kimmel's back,
Yeah. Oh, and also he's back on Sinclair stations as well. That just happened as we were recording. Yeah.
Oh, now that's fascinating, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, if you're Donald Trump and you're going to war against the New York Times or whatever, most Americans aren't going to give a shit. Why would they care? Yeah. Right? What is the New York Times to them? Like, unless they are super into the media for reasons known only to themselves, right? Then this is the kind of thing you read about in the newspapers, and it's a sideshow, and it doesn't really matter for you. But when all of a sudden the president starts saying, and now no more Jimmy Kimmel for you. You don't get to watch him because I said so. All of a sudden, millions of people who either watch Jimmy Kimmel's show or occasionally watch his show, or more likely watch clips of it on YouTube, like in the next few days. But people who are like, well, this is part of my media diet. This is part of what I do. And you're taking it away from me just because? Fuck you. And there was basically such a huge and yet uncoordinated pushback on this.
Yeah.
People canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions.
Yeah.
That Disney lost $4 billion in market capitalization.
Whoops. That's a lot of money.
So all of a sudden Disney realized, oh, we can't have this. Oh, no, we cannot have this.
Because money talks and bullshit walks.
Well, precisely, Chris. And I think this is one of those situations, basically, where a whole bunch of the billionaires and a whole bunch of the elites in the United States are suddenly going to start reckoning with the fact that Donald Trump is not actually that popular. And when he does shit like this, he gets above his skis. And people start noticing it, starts affecting their daily lives. And that turns people against him. And the thing is, he hasn't solidified power enough to start being this unpopular. Like, he is absolutely, I think, in the process of attempting to establish a dictatorship, and if you look at Orban in Hungary, who was able to establish a dictatorship, basically,
well, he might lose the next election. It's still competitive authoritarianism.
Exactly, right?
Because there's still elections.
Yeah. Although those elections are rigged, they are not fake.
They are rigged towards the incumbent, but they are not. But Orban isn't going to get 160% of the vote.
Exactly. But Orban, in passing a new constitution that gave almost unfettered power to his party, in creating a system in which Fidesz is basically going to be in charge unless things go very wrong at the ballot box. It doesn't need a majority to have a constant hand on the wheel of government. It just needs to be big enough.
Sounds like another party I know, another country I know. Call back.
But so it's one of those situations basically where, like, he was able to do that over the course of years by being really popular at first.
Yeah.
And so he's able to eliminate all the institutions in Hungarian society that could threaten him.
Yeah.
And even then, he's not able to fully, declare himself God King.
Yeah. You still
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Well, you still need the veneer of democracy. You still need the veneer of legitimacy before you jump straight into bed with that. Because once you get rid of the legitimacy, then it is, anything can happen.
Fear will keep the planets in line. Fear of this battle station.
Excellent.
So thank you.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. So Donald Trump, I think, is impatient because A, he is old, and B, he is Donald Trump. So basically for him, the idea that you would go slowly, you maintain huge popularity, you take out one enemy institution at a time until you are the only thing left standing, and then everyone can go fuck themselves. You do the enshittification after you've got everyone inside of your walled garden.
But I think there's a big difference here, and that's because we have midterms. Again, Constitution. Again, the 2-4 system. Every 2 years, there's every 2-4-6. Sorry, every 2 years there's a representatives. Every 4 years there's a president. Every 6 years there's a senator. Right.
Well, exactly.
So every 2 years, the system that oversees you is changing. So you only have really 18 months to implement your entire system.
I mean, effectively, that's true, unless, of course, you can rig the next election enough that you maintain control of Congress, right?
Right, through gerrymandering,
Well, that's the thing. We are seeing absolutely attempts to rig that system in order to try to maintain that, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it enough. And the problem is Donald Trump is not popular. He's down 13 points, and he is decreasing.
According to Rasmussen, he's 57%. According to Rasmussen.
I mean, Rasmussen has not been a reliable pollster in a long time now. They used to be somebody, Chris.
They used to be somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody that I used to know, but here we are.
Exactly. Thank you. Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. We're chock full of them. But yeah, exactly. But like, it's obvious. Everyone knows everything that he's doing and his administration doing is wildly unpopular. And yet they're pretending as if everything's fine just because of what you're saying. It takes time to implement your plan. And in the interim of implementing your plan, you have to tell people that everything is fine. For example, like when you fire government lawyers because they can't find any evidence, and you put somebody else in place, and then you wind up indicting the former FBI director for no other reason than a tweet that I put out, and I want to go after this guy. No proof.
Oh yeah,
this is James Comey, by the way.
And this is the thing, right? Is that like, so the U.S. attorney who was, I think, in charge of investigating Comey for whether or not he had lied to Congress, right?
Yeah.
Comes back and says, look, there's no evidence that we have here. Like, there is no way to build a proper case here. There's no way we're getting a conviction. And under the rules of the Justice Department, I cannot bring this case because it is a massive waste of taxpayer money and a massive waste of time, and also a huge abuse of power to do it. So obviously, Trump then fires him. Trump brings in an ex-beauty queen who is also a lawyer, but who is not a criminal lawyer, Chris.
No.
She has never prosecuted a case in her life, but now she's going to be a U.S. attorney, and her first case is going to be bringing a bullshit case that is never going to get a conviction, and is a massive abuse of power and authority.
She was an insurance lawyer.
She was an insurance lawyer. Well, that's,
and now she's putting a criminal case against the former head of the FBI, who most people think helped, if not was the nail in the coffin for Donald Trump to get into office in 2016.
I mean, the argument could certainly be made that James Comey acted in ways during the 2016 election that certainly made Trump more likely to be elected, ways that also were against FBI policy, it should be noted.
Again, so yeah. And just like anybody else who trusts or work for Trump, he helped out Trump, whether wittingly or unwittingly, and was summarily kicked straight in the nuts. And
it's like, you can't trust that guy.
Almost like you can't trust him. So that's a thing that's happening. And now I saw some random post. I don't know if it's true, but apparently they're like, this is total horseshit because there's a statute of limitations on this potentially, which burns out like next Tuesday.
Yeah. It's less than a week until the statute of limitations is over on this. So they had to get this indictment done ASAP, and they were able to get the grand jury to return an indictment. And it is worth mentioning that that's interesting.
Yeah.
Jeanine Pirro up in New York has been having just a really hard time, in Washington, D.C., has been having a really hard time getting grand juries to pass indictments. They've been basically hearing the government's evidence, and their only job is to determine, is there probable cause, right?
Yeah.
To believe that a crime has been committed. Not proof, not even the likelihood of proof, but enough of a reason to think that something happened to say, okay, this is worth bringing to trial.
Yeah.
The very famous phrase that every lawyer will tell you is, a good prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich.
Delicious.
Exactly.
Delicious ham sandwich. We need to see what's inside that ham sandwich.
99.99% of indictments are passed by grand juries. It is a very low bar to get over, right?
Yeah.
Jeanine Pirro is incapable of getting over that bar.
She's another
a few bars.
So. She's another Fox News host. I mean, again, like this is insane.
They're not bringing their best, Chris.
Because the best refused to work for him. Because if you work for Donald Trump, you wind up getting indicted.
Yeah.
By Donald Trump. Again, he's a massively unpopular president in a massively in a massively dangerous time for the country. But again, I guess we're going to see how this all goes for him. How this goes for Comey for the MAGA administration. I think that's pretty much all we have time for today. I don't know, because we didn't take a break, an intentional break. We had a technical issue which we solved pretty quickly. If I'm not gonna lie,
you didn't see it, guys. You weren't there for it, but let me tell you, it was thrilling.
It was just thrilling.
Absolutely.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was all the brain power and technical expertise that I could muster up.
Yeah. I had to shout out, Chris, cut the red one. And then Chris had to patiently explain to me there was no red one. So
all the wires are black. So,
God damn it. Well,
so yeah, and there's so much that we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the 2 kids who went to Tennessee State University to try to antagonize an HBCU, and how now the Kirkosphere is trying to get the HBCU to expel all the kids who yelled at these 2 kids who were basically said, basically went there to, cause trouble, using stochastic terrorism. Was it that stochastic?
Stochastic terrorism,
Stochastic terrorism.
Exactly.
And we haven't had time to talk about the ICE attack, which is wild, because the person who killed a few detainees. Yeah. But then the FBI found anti-ICE on a spent casing and blue ballpoint pen.
Which
doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. And which may very well be of a piece with the fact that so many of these mass shooters seem to be irony-pilled people coming off of Reddit, sort of playing up to the crowd and demonstrating, their, I don't know, man,
nihilist.
Well, basically, sort of an aggressive, stochastic nihilist terrorism that we're all sort of dealing with here, which is it's not ideal. I feel like there's probably young men could be doing better things with their lives than murdering people.
Well, I mean, and yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult question, a hard problem to solve, and unfortunately, the people in charge are telling us not to take Tylenol while you're pregnant, because solved for autism. By the way, autism is solved because if you just don't take Tylenol, which is wild because now you're attacking a massive corporation, which brings us back to the billionaires must be waking up to the fact that this guy isn't somebody that can be controlled like people think. But presidents, this dude is beyond a loose cannon. This guy is incredibly dangerous. He's going to get. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Johnson & Johnson. I'm not trying. I don't have any of their stock, but I'm thinking to myself who's next?
This is not a man you can do business with.
No, this is not, and everybody knows that. Anyone who's done business with them knows you can't do business with them. So it's crazy over there. It's crazy over here. Hopefully we'll be able to come back next week. I am out of town next Friday, so all right. We will see what we can do. But as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And we are doctors,
but not doctors.
Good night.